All right, we just took a look at the flip-flop. Let's see how the flip-flops are actually can be used. If you remember from the last little video about the flip-flops, I showed you that if you set the J and K correctly, you can make it actually hold a value. Well, these pieces here are basically flip-flops. So that is the flip-flop circuit you saw before, but the shortened version, right? There's the two inputs. There's the output, right, that comes out of it. Inside of there, there's a full circuit, right? The one we looked at before. But this one you can see here when I press the button, cha-chunk. That's like the clock signal before that went on and off. Whatever values I have feeding in get held. And I could change these values, but the flip-flop is still holding on to that same value. So this is its role, acting as if it can be memory, right? And you'll see here I've hooked up a little digital clock to it too, right? So there's the ones, the twos, the fours, and the eights, right? Like a binary number. And so you can see here, anytime I do this, I turn those three on, I should get cha-chunk. And the flip-flops are just holding on to that value and recording a 7. And so this device is called a register. And because I'm storing 4 bits, then these 4 bits, right? It's a 4-bit register, right? And that's basically one other version of memory. The neat thing here with the register is you got to remember, this piece here was made of everything you saw in the last video. And those pieces each had 1 or 2 or 3 transistors in them each, and ground and power. So, this looks simple, but there's a lot under the hood here. Anyways, this is a register. Now what I'm going to do is, give me a sec, I'm going to pop open a shift register. Now this starts to get neat. This is called a shift register, and like the name implies, if a register just stores values temporarily for you, the shift register shifts the values. It's a way that computer memory can move the data on to other spots. Check this out. These squares here, these are all flip-flops. Okay, set the store value like we learned before. And with these connection of OR gates and AND gates, check this out. I have a 1 there, the load is on, and I'm going to just reset here and watch what the numbers do. I have a 1, right? And I'm going to switch the load on, and the 1's on, and oops, I forgot to take the reset off. Look at that. 1s are flooding down. So what happened is this 1 entered, went in, got stored. But the way these are hooked up, that the output goes into the input of the next one, that when I switch this to 0, watch the 0 coming in. The 0, it's sliding along, and when I switch it to 1, the 1 moves, it's hopping. This is like when you receive data transmission, and 1s and 0s are coming in from a wire, and they literally get stored in memory and moved along to different spots in memory. And so when my loading is yes, please load them up, the number coming in, you can see it entering and moving along the shift register. So basically, if I don't have the load on, loading is not on, nothing happens. But if I'm told, yes, I want to remember what's coming in or the data coming in, I can hit the button and it starts to move stuff around. Now, obviously, you're probably not going to follow this along, to see how it's working, but just to show you, it's just the pieces we've talked about can be made to do this kind of stuff if you explore it a little more. The key idea with this one is this allows the computer to move values from one place to another place pretty easily, right? Okay, the last one we're going to look at here, and this is the last one, this is just to show you computers need to count. There we go. To keep track of things, computers like to count too. Here's a counting circuit. You can see here the same pieces are being used again. I'm just using flip-flops, but the output of a flip-flop is basically connected to the next flip-flop. And so where I'm toggling, that's called the clock signal. That's where I was clicking and constantly changing it. You can see that the output of this one is going in to that clock signal of the next, and so on. So it triggers them, right? The neat thing about this is if you watch it counting, this is actually a bit backwards binary here. This is the 1s, 2s, 4s, and 8s. You can see it start to count up in a sec. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's counting, right? And another neat thing about this, in addition to, hey, we got our computer now counting up numbers and stuff all on its own, just by the clock going back and forth on and off, is that what you can see here is that this one changes every time there's a clock change. It's changing a lot. This one changes half as often, right? This one changes half as often as this one. And this one changes half as often as this one. This is a nice way for a computer, if it's going to be executing instructions, it's a way to delay instructions being run. You could have instructions tied to this one and this one and this one, and it's going to keep them in order. The instruction doesn't get to run until it turns into a 1. And so this is the setup, the most basic setup of how computers can do things in order. If they can count like this, then they can start to do instructions in a certain order. And so what we've overall learned here is you've seen how we can make memory, we can do math calculations, we can move data around, we can remember it, and we can have counters that can start to organize timing of things. I mean, that's pretty well what a computer chip does, right? Hopefully you've liked learning about these little circuits. Again, you're not going to have to reproduce these, but just wanted to show them to you.